Let us all breathe together. And I will share the tribal and land acknowledgement, which is a statement released by the Narragansett tribal official representatives and tribal elders that NESOG is accountable to as headquartered in what is now known as the state of Rhode Island. As a way of introduction, we are here. We are the people who grew from this land. We are the First Nations. We are sovereign tribal nations. We are the people who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. Our ancestors are buried here. And we want to take a moment to honor our ancestors who faithfully stewarded our inherent territories. So let's just take a moment and acknowledge the ancestors of this land, and you can also acknowledge your own ancestors. Let's just take a quiet moment together. Give thanks. We want to also express our deep gratitude to Mother Earth, who has sustained us throughout all of these generations. So right now, if you are able to, place your feet on the ground and feel Mother Earth's connection pulling you, grounding you, rooting you to her. We are the inherited keepers and protectors of this land from the beginning of time for the survival of the next 7 generations. We also want to acknowledge all those who do not have their ancestors buried under this very soil. You are standing on stolen land. You are here living and working on this land as guests. As guests, we respectfully request that you make the commitment or the recommitment to honor Mother Earth, to stop the trampling of the land, to follow the leadership and stewardship of her First Nations, and to respect and uphold Indigenous sovereignty without violation. Give thanks. Yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are grateful to be here. We are so grateful for our beautiful presenters. Thank you to the NESOG board and staff. Thank you to each one of you that took the time today that said, I want to I want to grow. I'm going to go to this and be a part of it. So we're grateful that you're here. I am Malaika. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm in the Lenni Lenape territory, now known as Philadelphia. I have been the conference manager at NESOG since the end of 2017. And now my role is shifted as NESOG has begun its great shift. So it's been wonderful to be a part of it all. I'm going to go over the agenda real quick, but also wanted to remind you all that this session is being recorded and will be shared afterwards. Just give me a minute. Sorry, my computer, I'm having technical difficulties, but I'm still with you. I feel like this is the common trend. We're all always having technical difficulties. Give me a minute. Sorry about that. All right. So we are going to, this is our agenda. It's up here. Yay, Shia, thank you so much. You're holding it down. I love it. We're going to start off with some intros. We're going to learn more about the Sankofa series, and we're going to learn about NESOG's racial equity transformation work. exciting stuff here. We're going to dive into Marco's presentation. Then we're going to have a Q&A. And you know, Marco, if you were with us before, you know that y'all are going to be in some breakout rooms, and we are going to go deep. So be ready and stay with us till the end. You'll also have a time for Q&A. And then at the very, very end, we're going to take a moment of reflection, and we're going to break out into more conversation, more critical analysis, and we're going to share some prompts before we begin, just so you know what's coming up, because we want you to really be able to just think about these things so we can dive deep together. What is the Sankofa series? What is NISOG's Sankofa series? Well, Sankofa is a word from the Akan people of Ghana. It means to go back and fetch it. And it reminds us of the importance of returning to knowledge gained in the past and bring it forward with us to ensure a strong future. So initially, we launched this in 2020. NISOG, it was our first webinar series, and it focused on the wisdom of our networks and community who are all working towards creating meaningful change in the food system. Well, now our second season of the Sankofa series is part of NISOG's transformation work. So we're doing this racial equity transformation work, and the NISOG, the Sankofa series is a part of it, and you are also. So we're so happy that you're here, and that you're here with us to celebrate and lift up voices of color, to learn about our history and roots, and really celebrate the identities and cultures as we gain a better understanding of movements of resilience and change. Through the lessons, collaboration, conversations shared during these webinars and other programming that we have begun to do, that NISOG is shifting into doing more frequently, we're continuing to dig deep, right? So today we're going to be learning about our roots, glorious and strong, but also painful and traumatic. How do we use Sankofa to learn from the past and use this knowledge as we begin to collectively envision what it means to truly create a food system that's rooted in love? Because that's what our mission is right now. That's what NISOG's mission is. And we need your help in this visioning process. So another component of this racial equity work is our landscape assessment and regional mapping. So not only do we want to envision what this food system looks like rooted in love, but we want to know where all of these folks are that are going to be cultivating this garden with us. Where are you at? We're doing regional mapping. We want to know who makes up our network, what NISOG's role in this work is going to look like now as we move forward. What successes and challenges are we facing as we cultivate this food system together that's rooted in love? How are you going to water this garden, this food system rooted in love? How will we cultivate and care for this garden rooted in love? We're going to share and dig deep into it a little later on, so please do stay with us until the very end. You can also learn more about opportunities to participate in upcoming landscape assessment sessions and map jams. And with that, I am passing it on to our beloved Christina, who will introduce herself.
I was muted. Thank you so much, Malika. And hello, everybody. So happy to have you here breaking bread with us and our wonderful presenter today. A little bit about myself. My traditional name, well, my name is Christina Cabrera. My traditional name, Chunchip Deer Spirit. My pronouns are she, her, hers. and I'm the executive director here at NESOG, and I am residing and living on Narragansett territory, what is now known as, more specifically, Providence, Rhode Island. And as everybody knows or might not know, NESOG it has a much farther reach than Rhode Island. So we are a network of farm and food practitioners that cover 12 Northeast states plus Washington, D.C. And if you are interested to learn more about NESOG, feel free to visit our website, and I will pass it on to Shia.
Hello again, and thank you for joining us this evening. I am Shia. I use she, her pronouns, and I am here on Lenni Lenape land, also known as Philadelphia. I got to give a quick shout out to the Philly folks on here who joined us last month at our Mac Jam session. I see y'all. Hey, it was great to connect. And I'm the program manager for NESOG. Been part of this team since 2018, and just grateful to be here with y'all today. Before we dive into everything Marco's got planned for us, we need to do some community agreements and Zoom etiquette. So I will share those with you to go over. And we just ask that everybody respect these agreements so we can work on creating an open and inclusive space for this webinar. So without further ado, let me go ahead and share those. And I will just read these through really quick before we dive in. Be curious, open, and respectful. Call in, not out. Throw sunshine, not shade. No one knows everything. Together we know a lot. We can't be articulate all the time, so give the benefit of the doubt and ask questions. Take care of yourselves, stretch, eat, drink, use the restroom, and rest. Confidentiality, so don't speak for others without explicit permission, and don't share something communicated in a private space. One mic. Take space and make space. So if you're usually quieter, challenge yourself to take up more space. And if you find that you usually take up a lot of space, try to challenge yourself to leave room for quieter voices. Avoid jargon, acronyms, and industry language. Use inclusive language that's accessible for everyone. Be aware of time. Speak from your own experience and use I statements rather than generalizations. Challenge assumptions. Be conscious of intent versus impact. No matter your intention, you are responsible for your impact. Avoid using isms without explaining what you mean by them. And accept and expect non-closure. We know this work takes time and we are just planting the seeds. And y'all know this by now, Zoom etiquette. We want to make sure we stay present and focused and engaged. We want to give our presenters and fellow attendees our attention and respect. We would love to see your beautiful faces. So if you're comfortable to show your video, you can. And please edit your names and add your pronouns. We ask that folks stay on mute if you're not talking. Please use the chat box. We love when there's engagement in the chat. You can engage with other participants, share comments, ask questions and resources. Take care of yourselves. So we're going to be here till 6 o'clock. Grab a snack or grab some water if you need to. And we'll take questions toward the end. So you can leave those in the chat or wait till our Q&A portion to go over those. And I'm going to pass it back to Malika.
All right, so today we will hear again from our beloved brother, Marco McWilliams. Marco A. McWilliams is a Black Studies scholar and adjunct professor, a DEI-J and consultant, educational consultant, and a movement-based organizer and educator. He's a published writer with nearly 2 decades of engaged scholarship work in convening diverse learning communities. He's also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and owner of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu studio where he teaches personal self-defense to marginalized communities. Welcome again, Brother Marco. It is so wonderful to have you here today with us.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. Appreciate Nisa. One love to all of y'all. This is the kind of stuff that animates my life. So there's nowhere else I'd rather be or anything else I'd rather be doing. Appreciate all of y'all for being here. I see folks out there. I want to encourage folks, if you're able to put your cameras on so we can, be as human as we are able to be in the space. It's good to be back. Feel free, I think as has been said, to use the chat space. If you wanna share. I wanted to open our session this evening with a quote by Fannie Lou Hamer. Okay. And we aren't gonna go into a breakout room for this one. We just all gonna kind of like talk here in this space as a point of opening discussion. However, I feel that I would be remiss if I did not. I think I said this the last session, and I just want to say it again here. We went through the community agreements and these sorts of things. I want to say to you all, excuse me, I am not able to, I do not have the capacity to create a safe space in this Zoom or anywhere that I talk or anywhere that I am. And this is something particularly that I say when I'm giving a talk, and I see a substantial number of white presenting folks in the space. Now, what do I mean by this? I am a Black man in America. I don't have, if I wish there were any such thing as a safe space for people who move through the space and bodies that have been made to attract violence. However, what I think we all can do, whether we Black, white, or candy stripe, is we can create together a courageous space, a space where we will find courage to be fully present in what we have to be present with, to have uninhibited and robust dialogue while we're in the space, and to, and as we move out, to continue to be committed to speaking truth to power. You recall that Dr. King said in his famous letter from a Birmingham jail, right? Folks who wonder, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And what did he say? He said, the first thing you can do is to refuse to be silent about the things that matter. Meaning when you see injustice, right? Refuse to be silent about that, right? When you see white supremacy, okay, refuse to be silent. But that's the first initial step. So I just wanna say that. Oftentimes it's with good intention, that in a lot of activist circles, I remember some of my comrades, they would open the meeting and say, okay, we're gonna have a safe space. And Kenya, and I'm sitting there like, where, really? That's amazing. You could just create a safe space just like that off rip. Black folks, for 400 years, we've been trying to find a safe space, and look at that. These well-intentioned white leftist liberals were able to just declare it to be so. Okay. Did anybody leave the Zoom yet? Okay, nobody left yet, so we good. We it's usually at that point where folks start suddenly having mysterious connection problems. Okay. I want to open us up with a quote from Fannie Lou Hamer. Who is Fannie Lou Hamer? That's an actual question right there. Okay.
Civil rights activist, Freedom Farms in Mississippi.
Uh-huh. Okay. Now, if nobody didn't say anything, Malika, she, or Christina, I'm like, we was gonna have to book workshop session number 3. Kenya Kamel saved her. She saved everybody. Okay. Fannie Lou Hamer. Listen. Everybody just got a homework assignment. Okay. If you are marginally familiar with Fannie Lou Hamer, Mississippi Delta, particularly Ruleville, that's your homework assignment. Okay. Though, listen, we're not just in August, we in Black August. Okay. So happy opening Black August. All right. If you haven't done a Black August pledge, this is a great time to do Black August pledge. Familiarize or refamiliarize yourself with Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm going to open up by a quote from her. And she's talking about in Mississippi in the Delta. She was a sharecropper, daughter sharecropper. She says, down where we are, food is used as a political weapon. Down where we are, food is used as a political weapon. She said, but if you have a pig in your backyard, if you have some vegetables in your garden, you can feed yourself and your family, and nobody can push you around. If we have something like some pigs and some gardens and a few things like that, even if we have no jobs, we can eat and we can look after our families. Close quote. Now, this is before Whole Foods. Annie, what is Fannie Lou Hamer talking about right there?
If you're asking me,
Yeah, Annie Bellows, is that right?
that's me.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Annie Bellows.
Hi there. Well, she's saying you have the ability to build self-determination, community, family, individual self-determination if you can have some level of independence from the food system around you, which is controlled externally. And the context is it's more white, more industrial controlled, but local, familial, community potential to have some sovereign control over the necessity of food, establishes self-determination.
Okay.
Builds autonomy.
She opens a quote, right? This quote opens with her saying that food is used as a political weapon. Is she talking about food or is she talking about politics? And if she's talking about politics, what kind of politics and what is this correlation, right, that she's making? We jumping right into it. What's she doing here? So I see a hand raised. Go ahead. Is it Melanie?
Blessings. Thank you. Indeed. I believe she's showing that we have lacked political power in this country, and we must continue to sustain and maintain ourselves as we always have, and never forget our necessities. Those necessities can also be used to barter and trade with others from their blessings and provisions that they have, so that we will never lack. Living in America where we are still asking for the rights that they supposedly gave us 155 years ago means that their word is not bond, and we must create a bond between ourselves.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Sensational. I want us to think now. There's what Hamer is saying here, what she opens with this quote, and I can read it again quickly. There's a technology in there. Okay. And this is what we want to talk a little bit about. There's a technology embedded in what she's saying. And if we can get a hyper focus on the technology of resistance that's in there, okay? And Annie, I think you opened us up in a powerful way with that to start this. I want us to get at that technology. Now, let me just read this again one more time real quick. Down where we are, when she's saying down where we are, we know that she's referencing what? Mississippi South, Mississippi Delta, sharecrop, right? This is before agribusiness. This is large plantation, Black labor. Remember, the first worker in a capitalist system is the slave. In this conversation about labor. Right? We never escape labor. There's a very powerful story that Fannie Lou Hamer tells about her mother. When Hamer was a little girl, and she and her mother and her little brother and her cousin was, I think, 13 at the time, and she was a young woman. They were all going out to the field. You know, they're sharecroppers. They go out to the field. Remember, children in sharecropping families, the school year was about 2 to 3 months. Okay? That was the duration of the school year. The white kids went to school during the full year. Children had to go out to the fields to work the land alongside their parents. So they're going out to the field, and she said every day, her mother used to carry this little pot. She had a pot, and she had a lid on, she kept a lid on the pot. But Jillian, she never ever, her mother never touched that pot. Fanny's a little girl, and she, I don't know, my mother bring this pot, but I never seen her open the pot. Well, one day, Denise, they walking out to the field, and this white man rides up on the horse. Like literally, white man rides up on the horse. And Karen, he says to her mother, he says, referencing her cousin, he says, that girl, give me that girl, I want that girl. Because he's gonna take her up to the barn, because he's gonna talk to her. He says she's done something, and he's gonna whip her, this idea, right? It's, you know, it's just always this idea that like white folks are not just surveilling Black bodies, right? But it's this understanding, this anticipation that they actually have can take possession and ownership of them, right, for their purposes when they see fit. That's in the psyche of white civil society. Okay. Well, her mother says to the man, she says, no, sir, she's not going anywhere. So more forcefully, the white man, Jerry, demands that her mother send the girl. Now, you won't believe what happens next, Annie. She said her mother put the pot down. She took the lid off, Colleen. She reached into the pot. What was in the pot? This was a pot that you would normally put food in. They're going out to the land to go farm, to work. But there wasn't no food in that pot. What was in the pot, Kenya?
It's either a gun or a machete.
Kenya said it. We ain't got but a couple of options of what. Well, Kenya, I'm gonna help you out with that. A machete didn't fit in the pot. She had a pistol in the pot. She took the gun out. She looked at that white man up on the horse. And Fannie Hamer quotes her mother saying, I told you the girl ain't going nowhere. Now, if you ready to go to hell and back, will you get down off the horse and let's get it popping? You know what happened, Chuck? That man turned that horse around and he rode off. She found out that he wasn't ready to die for his white supremacy. And so no shots had to be fired that day. Fannie Lou Hamer's quote said, down here where we are, food is used as a political weapon. I want us to think about these technologies of resistance. As Fannie Lou Hamer gets a little older, a lot of people don't know this, but Fannie Lou Hamer was very good with math and good with numbers. And as an adult, the plantation owner, whenever he would be away and somebody be away, she had carried enough trust, and sometimes he would let her do the numbers to weigh the scales when the folks brought the cotton and the harvest in from the fields. And she'd weigh it out and give them, you know, whatever the pay was. Well, in the sharecropping system, when the white man weighed the harvest, he always had the scales rigged to his benefit. This was a very common practice, and this is the way Black folks would beat out of the crop. So it didn't matter. It didn't matter what the weather was. It didn't matter how well the crop did that season. However well it did, these scales, when they would weigh the crops, they used to put the thing called a P on it. Everybody know what a P is? It's a little weight, and you put it on the scale to ostensibly to balance it. That's what it's supposed to do, but they'd either add more or take more off to rig it. You see something like this in a scene if you watch that movie 12 Years a Slave, and they bring the cotton in from the field and they put it on these big scales and they hang it. Well, when the white man wasn't looking, what Fannie Lou Hamer would do is she'd take the P's off and she'd adjust the balance to the right amount. And so everybody always liked to bring their stuff in when Fannie Lou Hamer was working the scales. She was going to give them a fair amount. But there was an agreement that was had. The agreement was, listen, when I'm fixing the scales for y'all to what they ought to be, you got to look over my shoulder and watch and make sure the white folks ain't looking and coming. There's a technology of resistance. And then we fast forward. Fannie Lou Hamer gets into voting rights activism later on in her life. She's in her 40s when she emerges on the national stage. And so by the time we get to 1964, Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, 1964 convention, Democratic Convention in New Jersey. Remember, the two Democratic parties go. They did the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, that's the Black party, the actual democracy that's there. And they tried to keep the Black folks out. So the mainstream Democratic Party, they went and sent the white delegates. They wouldn't let the Black delegates go. And remember, they went anyway. They said, we got the actual votes. And the nation watched in shock, horror, awe, and everything else you can throw in there. As Fannie Lou Hamer sat at that table on national television before the entire committee. There's a YouTube video. You can find this video on YouTube. They cut the broadcast. She opens up. She said, my name is Fannie Lou Hamer. I live, and she gives her address. And she begins to recount the moment when they were coming back from going to register to vote. Remember, in the South, you would catch hell for trying to register to vote. You didn't have to actually go cast a vote, Jillian, if you tried to register to vote. They use food as a political weapon. You get thrown off the land, you lose your job. When they separate you from your job and they separate you from the land, that's a necessary separation from the essential human right to eat. And she begins to give this recount. Nobody knew she was going to tell that story because coming back, they had been arrested, taken to the jail, and the police brutally beat her and other Black activists in the jail. And they did a psychological warfare torture tactic where they actually used other Black folk in the jail to beat them when they got to the jail. In excruciating detail, Fannie Lou Hamer gives this account. Listen, y'all, this is 1964, them old black and white TV on national television. They cut the feed. they cut the feed. When we think about technologies of resistance, we're not talking about AI. This is not the technology even that we're on right now. This is the technology of what are the ways in which the cultural ways, the political ways, right? The spiritual ways that oppressed, suppressed, depressed, marginalized, colonized, exploited, people who always engage in a cycle of resistance to hegemonic domination. What are the tools and the mechanisms and the politics or the technologies, the social technologies that they need to survive? I'm looking at the time. I'm getting, oh shit, I don't even know where we at. It's 4:47. How we doing? What's I know we got a breakout room coming up.
Yeah, we're doing good. We can start breakouts at 5, so we can.
Okay.
We
All
can
right.
keep
We
going.
got a couple minutes. Okay. Resistance to a colonial structure that is not based on land, but based on the forcible acquisition of land and the marginalizing of people on the land. Resistance to a structure like that requires a technology. When we look at the historical record, we see that indigenous folks in our conversation today, Black folks, have had to come up with technologies and mechanisms of resistance. But we haven't looked at it as a technology. We just, they just out here, we just surviving. This is more than just surviving. You remember when Dr. King is in jail, the letter that I referenced earlier, letter from a Birmingham jail, remember? They had put him in solitary confinement, and he's writing this letter to these 8 white ministers who had written this absurd letter that they published in a local paper talking about why Black folks needed to just be patient and trust the legal system in the courts, and praising the police for what such a great job they were doing. You remember Jillian, Dr. King's furious. And he begins to craft a response in the margins of the letter. I think I may have talked about this. And he crafts a response. This letter later on becomes a little small book, one of the most important documents in modern civil rights history. What is the letter? We know what it is. What's the letter? Y'all better say something. I'm gonna add another homework assignment in there. They think I'm playing, Denise. Y'all, we're gonna leave this Zoom with like the whole syllabus of homework assignment. What's the letter? Karen, what's the letter?
I'm not sure.
You all know it. You probably just don't know you know it.
I mean, is it the I have a dream speech? I don't know. I'm just.
No, that's a good guess. We at the right house. Let's get to the right room. Letter from a Birmingham jail.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody read that or read it recently? Or okay, just by a show of hand. Okay, somebody just posted it in there. Just go ahead, Kermit. Now, I just want to ask for just a quick Just be honest. Just listen. It's all love up in here. It's all love up in here. Just a quick show of hands. If you haven't read the letter, or maybe you haven't heard of the letter, you missed that. It's not your fault. It's the fault of the education system. Don't even get me started on Florida.
You haven't read
Okay.
it?
Huh?
You haven't read it?
Yes, that's correct. Okay. All right. So boom, there's another homework assignment right there. Listen, I can't get into it because we have to do number 4. We just gonna put together a whole syllabus. Shia and Malika, we're just gonna put together a whole syllabus. In any
We're
case,
down. We're down. We're ready.
whenever I teach the letter, there's a technology there. There's so many technologies in there, but there's another technology that's not in the letter. The other technology exists with this question. How did Dr. King get the letter out of the damn jail? Nobody ever asked that question, Jerry. Where's Michaela? We got Michaela in the house. DC to Italy, or Italy to DC. How did he get the letter out of jail? Nobody ever asked. Karen, ain't nobody ever asked the question. So, oh, he wrote this letter when he was in jail. And nobody said, well, wait, well, how the hell did he get the letter out of jail? Here's the technology. Every day, his lawyer would go to the jail and visit him every day. And every day, he would hand his lawyer another paper. And his lawyer would take it, and every day he would smuggle a page of the letter at a time out, and he'd say, give it to the secretary, have them type it up. The lawyer never even read what the hell he was giving. When you listen to the interview with the lawyer, he said, I never even read it. I was just passing a. His lawyer smuggled contraband from out the prison. What's the technology here? Doing this work sometimes means you got to be down for the struggle. Now, somebody talk something about some moving some contraband around. Everybody in this Zoom right now will click off. Karen says, I'm out. I'm about to go grow me some tomatoes and just eat and, wish you all the best. And I'm going to just make sure I don't vote for Trump. Don't worry. You're not going to be asked to smuggle any contraband, Annie. My point here is I want you to understand that it's important, Jerry, that we not romanticize. I think I mentioned this before. We don't romanticize, right, what it meant to be Black and to have to survive, to have to eat, to have to live, to have to raise and take care of your family. We're talking about a period in a time where literally we don't even see that level of struggle like that, how we see it today. You know how Black folks got out of jail during the Civil Rights Movement, all the mass arrests that was going on? Black landowners used to take the deeds of their property to the court and use them as bond to get people out of jail under the agreement that they would return for their court date. That's a political use of land. So when Fannie Lou Hamer says down where we are, food is used as a political weapon. We have to begin to elevate and evolve our thinking around food and Black resistance. Is like, let's just have a couple of more community-run garden plots in the little park down the street. we got to think deeper, wider, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to return to the historical record. Our people and did it. We return to the record and look at understand what that means for us in our context. And then we move based on those principles. Now, as we head into this breakout room, there's a prompt. I wanna give you a prompt, and I'm gonna open this prompt up with another quote. And this one is not from Fannie Lou Hamer. Let me just get over here to the page with the quote. This quote is coming from a woman named Mama Dolly Raines. Okay. Now, Mama Dolly Raines, we don't have time to get into her. She's down in the backwoods of Lee County, okay, in Georgia. And Dolly Raines used her land, she used her property to provide shelter for the field secretaries in the civil rights movement who were doing voter registration and working with the people. And so she had some land, so she had her own food and little farm. And so she provided food and shelter for the workers. You have to understand, when Black folks going in the South, it's not like they staying at an Airbnb. It's not like they renting Teslas and driving all around. Where was you going to stay when you doing that work? Where were you going to sleep at? What were you going to eat? So Black folks who had land opened up their space and were able to house and feed because they had land. If we ain't got no land, come on now. Listen to this quote. Now, the Mama Dolly Raines, she was also she did midwifery. Now, this is something that she says to Charles Sherrod, who's a exceptional Black organizer in this period. And this is particularly in Southwest Georgia, okay, a little more rural part of the state. Here's a quote. She said, now, I just want to remind you, oh, Lord, I wish we could understand. When she's giving this quote, Karen, she's sitting on her porch with her shotgun right next to her chair. Because when you're doing this work and when you went to go register to vote, you had to expect that some white folks was gonna pay you a visit. Okay, on the back of a pickup truck. So Black folks always had to be prepared on their land. Here's what she says. Now, this is one night sitting guard with her shotgun. She told Charles Sherrod. She says, quote, "Baby, I brought a lot of these white folks into this world, and I'll take them out if I have to." See, in her work as a midwife, she delivered a lot of the babies of Black and white folks. That was the work that she did. Like as a job in the community. But her political work is providing shelter and food for Black folks engaged in civil rights organizing, was a kind of a technology for survival. You see, that's the element. Having food, feeding ourselves adequately, shelter, land. This requires a technology to understand, to do this in the way that it needs to be done in order to sustain. Going into the breakout room now, the prompt is, and I want you all to have a discussion, right? Just an open discussion. The prompt is, what kind of culture, listen. In this context, love is a technology. See, if you don't love me, if you don't love my humanity, there's no way you're gonna try to figure out how to like actually feed me. You'll see me starving and you shake your head and say, "Ooh, that's a shame. I hope he gets well fed. I pray for him." And you'll keep walking on by, eating your $12 ice cream from Whole Foods. But it's gotta be radical love. What Black folks had to do was radical love. They said, listen, we gonna eat. If I got one tomato, I'm gonna cut it in half. That's a different kind of level. That's a technology. In the breakout room, have a discussion about what are the technologies that we need today in 2023, looking just down the road at 2024. In order to survive, technologies of the land, technologies of food, technologies of the way that food is moved around. Let's have an open discussion in the breakout rooms around that. And she is getting ready to do her magic and hit some kind of button, and we all just gonna go off into the matrix somewhere digitally.
Yes, speaking of technologies, I'm gonna go ahead and get the breakout rooms going. I know some people are driving and some people are at work, so just participate how you're able to.
Yeah, if you're
No,
driving, just keep on driving. We don't want you.
Yeah, we don't want no accidents. All right, let me go ahead and we'll have about 5 minutes in the breakout room. Okay. All right, so y'all should see an invite for the rooms. Welcome back, everyone. I don't know, maybe if folks want to just share a few things that came up in their rooms, we can kind of go through popcorn style if folks like. And we can take a couple people. Or you can share in the Zoom chat also.
And if there are any questions that came up from the prompt as well, please feel free to open up your mic and share and ask.
Hello, this is Melanie Mead. I'm in Southwest Pennsylvania. The gentleman who was the lead for Breakout Group 2 talked about how he gives out food to his community, and we've been a food desert for over 40 years. So I'm interested to learn more about how I can access quality food to provide for our community who suffer from 1 in 20 cancer rate, and our children suffer from 3 times the national average in asthma. So getting them fresh quality food would be a great resource and a great technology to change their lives and experience.
Respond to Melanie. It's going to be difficult to grow food if the soil is toxic, and that's a problem. I guess the best way, if you can communicate with a community supported agriculture program, a farm that can provide you with fresh food and make arrangements to purchase this and have it shipped in. That's one thing that you could do.
Great, Jerry. That is a great technology because we have a large elder population and a large youth population. So having it delivered or shipped to us is great. So thank you so much. I thought that you were the head. I'm going to jot down your name and information. I appreciate you sharing that technology and resource. It empowers us.
Okay, you're welcome. Happy to share more. Contact me afterward.
That's great. And I see we have Annie with her hand raised.
Yeah, our group kind of struggled with the terminology of technology as opposed to strategies. So why technology necessarily? If we're talking about maybe growing on toxic soil, that's a technology, but I guess we struggle with the idea of like resistance as a technology. I think there was an acknowledgement that land access is powerful and critical, but trying to think about it in terms of political technologies instead of strategies just unfortunately kind of threw us a little bit.
Yeah, I can respond to that a little. It is an interesting use of the word. So I just looked it up and it's talking about like scientific, scientific knowledge applied for practical purposes, because I was thinking of technology of courage is one thing that's really needed. And just, courage to speak and act, regardless of knowing for sure outcomes. But when that doesn't seem like a scientific thing you can do. So maybe this scientific information of how to talk to people and listen to people so that we can understand each other better. Which from what I've been listening to Catherine Hayhoe talking about that, and it's a shared values. When you can listen long enough and land on a shared value, then that seems to be where people can connect and actually make progress on things. Check.
I see Diente and Sky.
Yeah, something that technology, right? Digital, we know that could be utilized in a way to like kind of further individualism and like people like being disconnected from each other and just being like hyper focused on things that don't connect us. But also in a world where we're now having to get comfortable with the idea of being mobile and not being planted in one place, because we know that like permanence in a place goes against nature, like nature wants to be fluid, like the river that the city is built on wants to be flowing and doesn't want to be kept suppressed underground. So that's why the city collapses. And, we rely heavily on extracting and individualism and just not thinking of like the interconnectivity of like ourselves with the ecosystem. We think of ourselves separately. It's like, how can technology be not only recovered from the hands of oppression by furthering individualism, but also be introduced back into our communities to educate ourselves and to reconnect ourselves and to strengthen our like ability to protect ourselves and the ecosystem we depend on.
We were
Let-
just going
let
through,
me-
like,
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Is it Marissa? Go ahead, Marissa.
no, it was an accident, sorry.
What was that?
Sorry, that was an accident.
Oh, okay, okay. Let's hang out in this garden a little longer around this idea of the technology. I want to recount to you something that happened once some years ago in a community meeting I was in. The meeting was it had interpretation. Sometimes interpretation was happening English to Spanish, and then they would flip it at a certain point and would go Spanish to English to make sure that everyone sort of had this dual experience of having to listen through. You know, there's some bit of equity and equality for you. So one of the interpreters was a self-identified communist. She had come here. She was a woman of color. And she had 4 children. There was a lot of white folks in this meeting. 2 of her children had US citizens, they were documented. But 2 oldest weren't. Okay. Annie, I hope you're returning soon. I'm not sure where Annie went right now. Well, she's at a certain point. Listen, she's not at the meeting. She's there to provide a service. She's being paid to provide this interpretation service. And at a certain point, she couldn't take it anymore. Us monochrome English speakers, Nat, we got our headpieces in, and we suddenly realized that she is going off the script. We realize, Kim, she's not saying what the speaker is saying. You know what she said? Because we were talking this part about immigration and how do we support, you know, undocumented persons. And she had enough with the white liberalism. She said, look, 2 of my children, sometimes we're not sure when ICE gonna show up at the door. Malika, would you please pause the recording momentarily for this?
In this conversation, are you okay with us turning back on the recording?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. We have time for a couple questions. If you've got one that is like, you are not going to be able to sleep tonight if you don't get to ask this question, you can either drop it in the chat or raise your hand. But we
We're
just
about to lose some sleep. Let's get it.
right.
poppin'.
We
We're
don't
about to
want
lose
we
some
don't
sleep.
want that. Ask your question, please. Okay. Don't be shy now. You don't want Brother Marco to call on you.
I see everybody's name on here. Listen, if this stuff was easy, Black and Indigenous people would have figured it out 4 centuries ago. Okay, so I'm not coming on here to give us some false positives like, oh, this is easy. All we need to do is X, Y, and Z, 1, 2, 3, and everybody free. Some of us in this Zoom is broke like a world record.
Hi, this is Jerry. You know, I'm wondering if we can go back in some ways. The Native Americans foraged in the forest for foods, herbs, medicines. It can still be done. Part of what I'm teaching in nut growing organizations is to use acorns for flour, for food. Black walnuts can be used for the food, you know, for dyes, for the timber. So there's
What
a lot
happens
of
when
stuff.
somebody takes the forest?
I'm sorry.
What happens when somebody takes the forest?
Well, that's a good question. You know, there's a lot of open forest land, parkland that people can use. I'm from New York, you know, so New York City area. So I guess I've taken for granted that all of these things, parks, are for free. But I guess in areas, you know, of the country, that's not always the case. There's a lot of private land, you know, that people don't have access to. But if you do have access to parks, you certainly can plant nut trees, bushes, fruit trees for the future. You know, that in the long run, that's I see as one solution.
Yeah, on this, I think it's part of the conversation. Have you ever made acorn flour, Jerry?
I'm sorry, Mayday.
Have you made acorn flour?
Yes, I have.
It took a long time, right?
It does. It's a pain in the butt, but
That's what I'm saying. So
it's from
you
God.
having the time to do that and knowing
You
the
do need time.
knowledge, knowing how to do that is a technology and a privilege at that. So
Yeah.
like having the access to an oak tree is just one small part of it. And that's what the whole conversation is about. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, now accepted. You know, does take time, and you do know have to know how to do it. You know, it's something that can be learned, and it should be a goal. I was a teacher most of my life, and I taught this to students, and I'm still involved with organizations that do teaching about the benefits, the blessings of natural land.
Yeah, and with like the understanding of that technology of like knowing about the Parks and Rec, how you can just go there and kind of do somewhat of like a guerrilla planting, you know, and then you can have your harvest that you know about, you know, that having access to that information should be shared, you know, and distributed to a lot of people, because there are a lot of people that don't know that they could do that. One, that's an option. Two, like they wouldn't even know where to start, you know, because like this active, like, you know, using food and access to land as a political tool is so deep and entrenched in our families, to the point where people don't even know how to eat something that's not processed, right? That's not chips from the papi store. You know, it's, I like, it's really hard sometimes for me to wrap my brain around it, because now as an adult, I can make my own food. You know, I'm not dependent on just what the church is giving me. You know what I mean? Like I have, and I'm making a lot of different options now, and trying to teach my family about that now is so difficult. And so there's that, right? When you're talking about the acorn flour, there's people like the Masa Co-op that I think is rooted in like South Philly that grows their own corn and makes masa from it, and makes, I think they supply a couple of restaurants like in the Mexican Italian market with that. And I think like those technologies, like more people getting introduced to that being widely shared and kind of like becoming a standard practice. You know, like knowledge and technology has to become standard practice for it to be carried on generationally. And we're at a point where resistance only really happens generationally. Not one person or not even one generation can really do that on their own.
Mhm.
Right, because we don't wanna get intoxicated on lifestyle activism. Right. We gotta have movement-based work. So part of the technology is a particular kind of ideology rooted in radical love that says like, yo, my people's got to eat. We got to think that way. She said, food is used as a political weapon. What are our political tools that we use to make sure we eat healthy?
Something I'm thinking about that's important in these conversations is language. I know when Melanie was sharing earlier, saying that they live in a food desert, Karen Washington came up with the term food apartheid to describe that, because desert implies something natural, where these systems, food apartheid, it's something, it's bringing all these systems and the oppressive systems, the racist systems, and the inequity in these environments. And so that's something, as we're having these conversations, that language is so important, that we're really intentional talking about these huge systems and how much they play into these technologies that we can use.
Do we understand that? That's powerful. When you understand that, what happens then? We have to actually go back and like change our whole analysis. To radically understand that means you got to go back and re-examine whatever approaches you were using. It's like, oh yeah, right. Food apartheid. What does that mean?
And Kermit said in the chat, right, it's structural and intentional. Also, deserts actually have food.
Kermit kept it 100. Go ahead, Kermit.
Yeah,
Oh.
my Philly folks be showing out today.
Philly
I
said y'all
love
better stop
it.
playing with us up in here.
Yes,
Better stop
yes.
playing.
So I wanna we are getting ready to shift into the next segment of this. But before we do, Marco, you inspire us. You inspire us, and we do want session 3 and 4 and through 10 and 20. So get ready, because I know you stay ready though.
You know what? I appreciate that, and yes, whatever y'all tell me to do, that's what I'm gonna do. I want to say, like, I see. Everybody remember their homework assignment, right? I'm very serious. I want you to follow through on that. And my contact information is there.
Mhm.
Please reach out to me if I've said anything that's put a splinter in your mind and you want to pick at it, right? Reach out to me. Let's holler, let's break bread, right? We got to break bread. Each one teach one, each one reach one.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing such wisdom with us. And please, Marco said it, please follow up with him. His email is in the chat, and you can also check out his work on www.blackstudiessyllabus.com. So please do that. Or if you're in Rhode Island and want to do a little jujitsu, you can go check out his studio, which we're going to be doing in October. So I'm excited, trying to brush up on my moves. But I want to turn it over to Christina now, as she continues to, we're digging deep. And Marco got the soil, like, he got it ready for us, and helps us to start that digging. And so Christina is going to take us, continue with the digging deep, and also just thinking about how we can connect this to the work that we're all doing. We're all doing it in some way. That's why you're here, because you're on this call, because you are doing this work in some way, and you have something to contribute to helping make this food system rooted in love. And so I'm going to put myself on mute and turn it over to Christina. Thank you again, Brother Marco. We appreciate you.
Definitely, Marcos. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. Your participation and your engagement is so much appreciated and so much needed. Marco really just wonderfully exemplified how our history and our roots and our struggle really connect to the land, and to where we are today with land tenure, land access, and all the colonized environments that we live in. This is, as Malaika was mentioning at the beginning, this is integral and a central focus to the work that NISAG is doing, the racial equity transformation of the farm and food system rooted in love. And so in closing, we want to first try to capture like a few key takeaways that you got out of this conversation. And please, you'll be receiving the recording, and you can go back and review. But for now, if you want to type in some key takeaways on the Zoom chat, or even unmute yourself and just speak up and out, that's fine too. We'll dedicate that 3-4 minutes to that, and then we'll go into a little bit of a reflection on how we're going to really operationalize and actually implement all these takeaways and what we have learned today in this conversation. I'll give you again a few minutes. Key takeaways.
Hi. One of the examples that Marco gave during his talk about using, a point was made of like using land not only to feed and house oneself, but to be able to feed and house travelers as well. And that point just really stuck with me because I hadn't even considered that land access is integral to mobility justice as well, and just how many opportunities stem from being able to move. And we see that in transit justice organizing as well. But I thought that really struck me. And so I guess one of the key takeaways I have from not just that example, but others, is that in organizing for change, you give what you have to give, and you organize so that you can acquire more of what you have to give. And I also kind of took away the example of just being able to look out for one another, and the example with the scales, and being able to look out for one another. in order to resist violence, and using your perspective, whatever that may be, and whatever advantages you have, giving what you have to give in terms of working in solidarity with others. So the technology of just listening and listening for people's needs, and being able also just to view everyone as having needs. Yeah, and that's what I took away from that. I took away other things, but that's what's most on my mind right now.
Thank you so much. I did a very poor job at taking some notes on the chat, but feel free to add, edit, change. And Karen says movement-based work, not lifestyle activism. Root our work in radical love, technologies of resistance. Thank you. Colleen agrees on Jillian's points, and those resonated as well with her. One more minute. If anybody else has anything else to add?
Kermit has his hand raised.
So, thank you. Thank you, Mark.
It's a little hard to hear you, Kermit.
How about now?
Oh, a little
It's a little
better.
tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about now?
Okay, much better.
Okay. So I was going to say, kind of a key point that Marco raised, it was around, and in the Hamer quote, right, is around self-determination, right? So like, I think a lot of the discourse in food spaces is around like access and like, making sure people get to eat, even if that means that food is coming from a big nonprofit. Like, let's save the people, help them, give them food, right? But if you don't have access and control of the means of growing your own food, then you're always beholden to somebody else, right? And there's a power dynamic there in which, people can be rightfully resentful to someone who's giving to them. I think sometimes in very liberal spaces, it's like, oh, they should be grateful that we're giving them food. Why are they so angry? But it's like, that's power, right? To be in a position where you can give to somebody else and they have to rely on you. Nobody wants that. So it really is about control of land and the technologies. And by that, I mean strategies and also physical technologies to be able to produce food for yourself and your community. So to me, that's the biggest thing.
Thank you. Again, I did the best I could. Please feel free to add or edit the brief notes on the Zoom chat. And Annie, I've thought about food knowledge as survival knowledge and the importance of passing them, even if they're not used. And she clarifies survival technologies. I've thought about food knowledge and as survival technologies.
I don't know if this is silly to ask, but if like these takeaways can be sent like in a synopsis of like email, like review, I don't know, like recap type deal, that would be nice.
I was trying to copy and paste this onto another document that I will and I haven't finished because I was switching back and forth, but I will do so, and we will email it out to you together with some further follow-up information, and as well as an evaluation form or a survey. It really helps us to improve and to offer sessions and activities and opportunities for discussion that are actually helpful for the entire community. Kermit also I only add that nonprofits who feed people sometimes fail to recognize the power dynamic within that, to be in a position to give food versus a position to have to receive. So I dropped this, thank you, Kermit, for adding that, and I dropped this link. If people could maybe in the last few minutes that we have together here, if you could go to this document, and we try to capture everybody who is in the room and who registered, and if your name is not there, feel free to add it. The idea is, as Marco was pointing out, is how to move from a conversation and reflection, which is important, but how to move to the actual technology and how to actually make it happen within the role that we have and within the work that we do, the relationships that we have in the community, and as family members and as relatives and as co-workers. Just maybe think about how can we, with these takeaways and maybe some other things that have come from this session and others from the Sankofa series, how can we plant and water the garden? What are the things that we should be doing, that we need to be thinking about of doing beyond the conversation? And like Marco was giving a very good example with the language justice story and many others. And then how can we weed the garden as well? Because there are things that we definitely need to shed, some habits and some things that are deeply embedded in the psyche of structural and systemic racism society that we live. And so we leave this form here for you to start working on it, and then think about where, at least for the first two columns, and then at home, this will still be available to you. You can think about how the impact and the outcomes that will come out of your commitments, because pretty much this is a commitment to do XYZ. Sometimes it is helpful to put it in writing and to paste it on the refrigerator, have discussions with your friend, have discussions with your families, reflect, figure out why, how can we do this, how can we change things, and get it done. So we invite you to spend a few minutes on this form. I don't know if there are any questions.
Yeah, I think Marco has something.
Marco, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as we wrap this up, Audre Lorde makes this incredibly powerful quote. She says, "The master's tools will not dismantle the master's house." Right? And if we read Lorde, we've been in movement spaces, right? This is often quoted, and so many times this is misunderstood, right? You say, "Oh, see, so you can't use your cell phone, right? iPhone is not going to free us, or some other kind of thing." This is this idea about the technology. It's not just like a physical thing. What she's saying is that the idea that we're going to get liberated under the ethics, the rules and procedures of capitalism, that's the master's tool. It's not a damn actual physical piece of technology. Right? The thing that what Kermit just laid out. Your political ideology of understanding, this is what it's not just love, it's like radical love. That's got to come from a different place. That doesn't come from the manual at the co-op.
And thank you for adding that, Marco, because that is one of the reasons why we're doing this. We hear a lot that white folks don't know how to go about it, or don't know what to do, or what's their role, and it's okay to ask those questions, but this is a space to actually go beyond and dedicate the time to. This is a space and a place, and beyond these webinars, to think about how can, not with the same master's tools, how can we move from an extractive society and economy to one that is nourishing, regenerative, healing, and that is based on radical love. What does that look like? And what is it that I can do and need to do for that to happen? This is pushing us all a little bit further. And we encourage you to not stay silent. And if you have questions, there is a column, last column that says, if you have questions or comments, you're struggling with, I don't know my role, I don't know how to go about it, that's fine. That we need honesty, and we can type that in that column as well.
Yes, the first step is to just a decision. You just make a decision that I'm not going to be silent about things that I may have been being silent about. That's step one right there. And that's a decision it's got to come from in here. So that means you got to spend some time with yourself. Right? In the context of the struggle. Like, where have I been being silent about some stuff? You know, how am I going to use my voice? How am I going to write? Wherever it is that you do to disrupt the linearity of the silence of injustice. That's it. That's the first step. You don't even have to know what you're going to do. It's just a commitment that you make. Now, I'm not going to be silent about that anymore. Then you will find your voice in a new way. You don't even have to know what to say. I'm done talking. I'll be talking to you all night.
So this document is going to be available to you again after we're done. We have 3 minutes left, and I know that there are some closing remarks that are important. Shia is going to add, and we'll definitely compile your key takeaways from the Zoom chat and send them to you. You can also save them at the bottom of the Zoom chat if you so wish to as well. Shia?
Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna actually pass it to Malika to close us out, but I thank you all for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much. I just want to add, like, we need you all to fill out this, to add your contributions to this form. Everyone on here, you all have gifts, and you have things to contribute and to share that can really help with not just envisioning a food system rooted in love, in radical love, but actually manifesting that food system rooted in radical love. So what are your gifts? What have you been given? Which way, how are you going to water this, right? So we're leaving here. We don't want to just leave and then we move on to what's happening for dinner and we forget all about this. Take some time, let it digest, add to this, because as Christina shared, this is helping us to recreate the vision of what NESOG's work is. And we want your input. And so we thank you so much for taking that time, for taking the time thus far. We also have a survey, so we want you to fill this survey out in addition to filling out this survey. And I know you're going to be here for this one too, Marco. So even though you're not presenting next month, one of my favorite people in the whole entire world is going to be on here presenting on Wednesday, September 20th. We are going to hear from Mama Charlotte, who is a Black Panther mama. She and her husband Baba Pete have been living in Tanzania and doing incredible work. Baba Pete was the founder of the Kansas City Black Panther chapter, and Mama C is such a healer, artist, community leader, and so much more. And you will get to share just a little bit of her vibration here on September 20th, our Sankofa series. We look forward to seeing you then. Also, remember that NESOG definitely needs support as we continue to do this work. It doesn't look like our work used to look. It looks really different. And so your donations really help us to continue to do this work in a very different way than NESOG's history has had it. We also want you to join our listserv. You probably already have joined it, and that's why you're here. But we also have a fabulous newsletter every month, so we want you to check that out. Also, we did drop in Marco's email and also his website. What else? Did I get everything? Oh my goodness. And it's 6 o'clock. We did it again. I'm feeling great. I hope you all are too. Take that positive energy, take that negative energy, whatever kind of energy it is, and use it to make an amazing change in this world. We are so excited to see y'all next month, and have a great evening, everyone. Peace out.
Thanks, y'all. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.